For over 50 years, the world believed that the Apollo astronauts told us the absolute truth about the nature of the moon. It turns out they were not hiding secrets on purpose, but were limited by the instruments and culture of their specific time. These early pioneers described the moon as a grey and dead world, a simple museum piece frozen in cosmic time. The data they brought back seemed to back them up, including thousands of photographs and topographic scans. All of it pointed to the same conclusion that the moon is a quiet and predictable place where nothing has changed for billions of years. The astronauts were simply repeating what their instruments told them and what 50 years of robotic orbiters seemed to confirm. However, on April 6, 2026, 4 brave astronauts flew within 4,0 miles of the surface aboard the Orion spacecraft. Almost immediately, they started seeing things that did not match the official records and photographs. They observed colors that shouldn't have been there and topography that photographs had completely failed to convey. There were flashes of light on the darkened surface that made scientists back in Houston literally scream with excitement. The Artemisi crew didn't just fly around the moon, they caught it in a lie that every previous mission had somehow missed. Reid Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen spent 7 hours circling the lunar body aboard the Orion spacecraft. The crew had nicknamed their vessel Integrity and carried a fleet of advanced Nikon cameras for documentation. They were also equipped with roughly 2 years of intensive geological training courtesy of planetary scientist David Kring. Kring had trained them to look for specific color gradients and structural clues that cameras in orbit simply cannot interpret correctly. The distinction between a camera and a human eye matters more than most people would ever expect in space exploration. While a camera records simple light, a brain connected to a pair of eyes notices when something is fundamentally wrong or unusual. The crew worked in meticulous shifts because the available window space in the Orion capsule was quite limited. Only 2 astronauts could observe the surface at a time, so they rotated in pairs for roughly 85 minutes each. They used camera shrouds made of black curtains to prevent cabin light from contaminating their precious photographs. It was meticulous and unglamorous work that determined whether the science gathered during the flyby would be usable. One of the first major targets on their observation list was the mysterious Oriental Basin. This basin sits right on the boundary between the near side and the far side, making it nearly impossible to see from Earth. Apollo astronauts only caught brief glimpses of its outer edge, never seeing the full 600-mile wide structure. It was formed nearly 4 billion years ago when a massive asteroid slammed into the surface with incredible energy. The impact was so powerful that it liquefied the rock hundreds of kilometers deep and created a multi-ring basin. From orbit, these mountain rings look like a perfect bullseye pressed into the cold lunar stone. Reid Wiseman described the center of the basin as looking like a pair of lips or a kiss on the far side of the moon. He quickly corrected himself, noting that the feature was far more circular than he remembered from his training images. The northern section was noticeably wider and darker, while the southern section appeared much lighter in color. None of this three-dimensional reality had translated properly from flat photographs taken during previous missions. This recurring problem throughout the flyby shocked Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen the most. On screens and in every simulation they had run, the surface looked like a simple sphere covered in craters. In person, the elevation changes it differently from the vantage point of a spacecraft moving through lunar space. David Kring, listening from the science evaluation room in Houston, had been trying for years to communicate this exact point. The elevation differences near the moon's south pole are actually greater than the height of Mount Everest on Earth. Flat images on flat screens simply cannot convey the sheer scale and terror of such deep valleys and high peaks. Victor Glover could not stop talking about the Terminator, the line dividing the illuminated half from the shadow. Along that line, Sunlight hits the surface at such a low angle that every ridge casts a shadow 10 times its own height. Glover described it as the most rugged thing he had ever seen, with islands of light surrounded by valleys like black holes. These pockets of terrain were so deeply shadowed that they appeared to be missing from the surface entirely. Mission Science lead Kelsey Young told the crew that these observations were exactly what human eyes contribute. No camera can replicate the way a human brain perceives the complex interplay of light, depth, and structure. A camera records reflected light at fixed wavelengths, but a trained brain notices when a shade of brown shifts toward blue. The astronauts were effectively doing geological fieldwork from 4,0 miles up, spotting mineral boundaries orbiters had missed. The colors they reported were not what anyone expected, including surprising shades of brown and green on the near side. These variations correspond to iron and titanium deposits in the lunar soil that produce subtle shifts in reflectivity. While orbital photographs see these as nearly identical, they separate into distinct ways when viewed directly by the human eye. The Artemisia crew got to watch these effects in sequence as their spacecraft moved along its high-speed flyby path. They were catching color and topographic details that had never been observed together by human eyes in history. But as they continued their journey, they prepared to face one of the strangest features in the entire solar system. This feature, known as Rainer Gamma, would challenge everything they thought they knew about lunar geology. Rainer Gamma is a bright swirling pattern spread across 60 kilometers of otherwise dark basalt rock. It was first spotted through primitive telescopes in the 1600s and was originally misidentified as a crater. Modern observations prove that it casts no shadow because it is completely flat with no topography at all. The swirl pattern is purely an albedo feature, a difference in how much light the surface reflects back. What makes Rainer Gamma genuinely strange is the hidden magnetic anomaly that sits deep beneath it. This pocket of magnetized rock generates a localized magnetic field strong enough to form a miniature magnetosphere. The Moon has no global magnetic field, having lost it billions of years ago when its iron core cooled. Only scattered remnants remain as fossil magnetic fields locked into rock that solidified long ago. Rainer Gamma's field is strong enough to deflect incoming solar wind particles, which usually darken the soil. Where the field shields the surface, the soil stays bright, creating a pattern like a tan line on skin. Yet, the magnetic anomaly doesn't align neatly with the geological structures around it, leaving scientists puzzled. One hypothesis suggests a comet struck the surface and somehow magnetized it during the violent collision. As the Artemisia crew stared down at this mystery, they knew they were witnessing something truly unique. Halfway through the long and historic lunar flyby, the Moon passed directly between the Orion spacecraft and the bright Sun. From the unique perspective of the four crew members, the Sun slowly slipped behind the massive lunar disk and vanished from view. The solar corona, which is the Sun's outermost and extremely hot atmosphere, blew mad around the Moon's edge in a ghostly ring of white light. On Earth, a total solar eclipse typically lasts only a few minutes due to the specific relative sizes of the celestial bodies. From a distance of 4,0 mil miles behind the Moon, however, the geometry of this celestial event was completely and fundamentally different for observers. The Moon was close enough and large enough to block the Sun's direct rays for nearly 54 minutes of total darkness. No human being in history had ever witnessed a solar eclipse from this incredible and high-altitude vantage point before this mission. The crew carefully put on their specialized eclipse glasses during the partial phases of the event to protect their vision from radiation. This simple act made them the first people in history to use portable eclipse viewers while orbiting in deep lunar space. Once the totality phase began, they removed the glasses and stared directly at the magnificent and glowing scene outside the window. Reid Wiseman called the sight an absolutely spectacular and truly magnificent experience that changes his entire perspective on the solar system. The photographs they took during the long period of totality show a dark lunar disk surrounded by a glowing halo of light. NASA's global science community is still carefully investigating the exact nature and origin of that mysterious and unexpected halo of light. The initial assumption by the researchers was that the light came purely from the solar corona itself during the eclipse phase. Preliminary analysis of the images suggests it may also include contributions from what scientists call the faint zodiacal light in space. This faint glow is caused by sunlight scattering of interplanetary dust particles spread along the main plane of the entire solar system. Distinguishing between these two light sources could provide vital data about dust distribution within the volatile environment of the inner solar system. This type of scientific measurement is extremely difficult to make accurately from the thick and reflective atmosphere of the Earth's surface. In the absolute darkness provided by totality, the stars and distant planets suddenly became visible in the deep black void of space. Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Mercury were all clearly seen shining brightly alongside the glowing solar corona in the dark lunar sky. These celestial bodies are normally washed out by the sun's overwhelming brightness when traveling through the vacuum of open space. Earthshine illuminated the near side of the lunar surface in a pale and soft reflected glow that looked almost ethereal to the crew. This light is simply sunlight bouncing off our home planet and landing gently on the ancient and rugged face of the moon. Victor Glover compared the long solar streamers radiating from the corona to a powerful spotlight beam on top of a hotel. It then immediately took the comment back, saying this cosmic light was what that human light wants to be when it grows up. Then, in the absolute and heavy darkness of the long eclipse, the moon unexpectedly started flashing with bright points of white light. 6 times during the eclipse, the crew saw brief points of white to bluish-white light appear suddenly on the darkened surface. These mysterious flashes appeared on the darkened lunar surface and lasted for much less than a single millisecond of human time. Reid Wiseman noted that the flashes were as fast as a mechanical camera shutter opening and closing during high-speed exposure. These mysterious flashes were actually caused by small meteoroid impacts slamming into the unprotected lunar crust at high velocities. These small rocks arrive at tens of thousands of miles per hour and vaporize instantly upon contact with the solid lunar ground. On Earth, objects of this specific size burn up in the atmosphere long before they can reach the ground as meteors. On the Moon, there is no atmospheric shield to slow these high-speed projectiles down before they strike the rocky surface. Every particle that approaches the lunar surface arrives at full speed and leaves a permanent scar on the ancient landscape forever. In the Science Evaluation Room at Johnson Space Center, the reaction to these visual sightings was immediate and incredibly enthusiastic. Kelsey Young reported hearing audible screams of delight from the scientists who were monitoring the mission's live progress from Houston. The scientific team had not expected the astronauts to witness so many distinct impacts in such a short window of time. While the crew had been briefed on what to look for, the statistical expectation was only 1 or 2 flashes at most. Seeing 6 distinct and separate impacts was considered an extraordinary success for the human observation portion of the mission. Jenny Gibbons told reporters that witnessing so many impact flashes was truly outstanding for a single human-led observation window. The practical implications of these observations are necessary for planning future long-term lunar habitation and safe base construction. If NASA intends to build a permanent base, the frequency and size of incoming meteoroids matters enormously for astronaut safety. On Earth, our atmosphere disintegrates most small impactors before they ever become a real physical threat to the people below. A rock the size of a small marble traveling at 40,000 miles per hour carries enough kinetic energy to puncture a habitat wall. Peter Schuss stated that the Artemis E observations show the daily flux of meteors must be monitored more closely than before. Understanding the height and size range of these objects is essential engineering data for keeping future moon dwellers alive and healthy. NASA's ground teams are now working tirelessly to correlate these visual observations with various robotic orbiter datasets. They are currently cross-referencing the crew's visual sightings with the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter's most recent and detailed findings. Citizen scientists around the world were also invited to monitor the Moon with backyard telescopes during this historic flight window. Comparing these Earth-based recordings with the crew's perspective will create the most complete picture of lunar activity ever recorded. This collaborative effort represents the most comprehensive study of lunar impact activity ever assembled in the history of space science. After the eclipse, the crew turned their attention toward the rugged and treacherous terrain of the lunar South Pole region. This specific region is of particular interest because it is where NASA plans to land future astronauts during the Artemis missions. The area is pockmarked with permanently shadowed craters that are thought to contain vital deposits of frozen water ice. This ice is considered a critical resource that could support a sustained human presence and fuel production on the Moon. The South Pole is far more rugged and dangerous than the relatively smooth equatorial regions visited during the Apollo era. The Artemis Z photographs will help mission planners evaluate potential landing sites with a much higher level of visual context. They capture specific lighting conditions and angles that orbiting robotic cameras often fail to document properly for the scientists. As the spacecraft continued its orbital path, it moved toward the ancient and massive Ersprung Basin on the far side. This massive crater is nearly 400 miles wide and clearly shows its great ages through its heavily battered and broken structure. Unlike the sharp rings of the Oriental Basin, Ersprung's mountains have been eroded by billions of years of subsequent impacts. Each double ring of mountains is still visible but appears significantly softened and degraded by the passage of cosmic time. By comparing these two basins side by side, scientists can reconstruct how various lunar features evolve across massive geological eras. The crew's photographs of this ancient structure are among the first direct human observations of the site in over 50 years. These images were captured under low-angle illumination that emphasized the worn and aged topography of the Moon's far side. Swiftly swinging back toward the near side, the crew observed the bright streaks of the Glushko crater radiating outward. These white streaks, known as ejecta material, were blasted outward during a massive impact and have not yet been darkened by space. The brightness of these rays tells scientists that the crater is relatively young compared to the ancient basins they just witnessed. Throughout the final hours of the flyby, the crew also searched for low ridges on the surface known as Lobat scarps. These faults are the visible expression of the Moon slowly cooling and contracting over millions of years like a drying piece of fruit. 7 hours after the first observation window opened, the primary data gathering mission officially closed. The crew packed up their advanced cameras and began the long journey back toward their home on Earth. They carried with them roughly 10,000 high-resolution photographs and hours of detailed verbal descriptions. This flyby did not involve a physical landing or the collection of rock samples from the Moon's surface. Instead, the crew performed the vital task of looking systematically at the Moon with trained and focused human eyes. They looked for the details that didn't fit, the shifting colors, and the hidden shadows that cameras miss. For 53 years, we studied the Moon through screens and built a model of a quiet and stagnant world. The Artemis Z crew spent 7 hours proving that our existing model of the Moon is fundamentally incomplete. The colors are more complex, the topography is more dramatic, and the surface is being reshaped constantly. The Moon is our closest neighbor, and yet we are only just beginning to truly understand its nature. We thought we knew the Moon perfectly, but it turns out our previous data was only a rough draft.